In 1996, one of the world's greatest cartoons ever created, The Ren and Stimpy Show, was canceled due to the inability of the writers to cope with the show's creator, John Cristofosi. Many former employees of Mr. Crick-Folsey admitted that he was very difficult to work with, and often asked for more than what the employees could put out. Soon, Crick-Folsey was soon completely out of writers. In January 1996, he was sent a notice from Nickelodeon Studios stating that they were going to have to cancel the program unless more episodes were produced, and soon, Crick-Folsey began the animation on the final episode of the cartoon from his home. During the process, he did not answer any calls from former employees or network executives until the production was complete. In February, a copy of the episode was brought into Nickelodeon Studios and was proofed by his very good friend, who shall not be named. Several Nickelodeon employees stated that Mr. Crick-Folsey was beaming with excitement that day, while his good friend had a look of shame and skepticism on his face, and he handed the tape over to him. The next day, the tape was aired at 1:45 p.m. Crick-Folsey stated that he only wanted a few kids to see the episode, as most would be in school. What followed was the final Nickelodeon airing of the new Ren and Stimpy episode. As the theme song started, there were a few oddities. There were a 10-second period of blackness and silence before the song started up. It was lively as usual, with the colors looking more dull than ever. The song ended and the show card appeared, with only Ren appearing, and the title read, Ren and Stimpy Show, but Stimpy was nowhere to be seen. The episode's title card then appeared reading, My Poor Stimpy, with a drawing of Stimpy surrounded by darkness, fading away from the camera. All credits read me instead of the name of the writer or animator. The episode began outside of the park of the trailer home, focusing on the mailbox. The colors were much darker than usual. Ren burst out through the door and ran to the mailbox, pulling out a large package. His eyes bulged out of his head with excitement, and he chromatically sniffed the box all over. He began to shout with joy. The strange part was that there was no audio for Ren's dialogue, but there were music. He ran inside and slammed the door. He tore through the package and opened up an autographed vinyl record. The autograph began being too eligible to read, so he placed the record on this display case over the mantel. Stimpy then came into frame, looking bruised, but still dopey as usual happy. He said to Ren, Gee, Ren, that's one fancy record. Ren then turned around and yelled at Stimpy, again muted. His eyes were vicious looking, and his hands were trembling in rage. He pushed Stimpy into the wall and punched him in the stomach, more brutally than usual. He whispered something to Stimpy's ear, and then pushed him to the ground, and then walked into the room. Stimpy peered out from the record, looking forlorn, and began to weep. The scene then ended with Stimpy crying, as the scene faded to black. The next scene began with Ren, sitting at the table reading a newspaper. Stimpy was playing with a baseball bat outside. The ball has been seen crashing through the window and barely missing the record. He very carefully retrieves the ball, not wanting to upset Ren. As Stimpy climbs down from the mantel, he slips and pulls the record down with him. Ren then enters the room with a solid face. There was no music at all. No sound, actually, except for a low-pitched humming. Ren looks at Stimpy and then at the record. This is where the episode becomes strange to ignore. Ren's eyes became extremely small and shrunken in his head. His lips quivered with frustration, and he began to make strange choking and hacking throat noises. At his first sounds of the episode, Stimpy begins to cower, looking truly fearful. This was definitely not the same comical anger that Ren displays in the other episodes. It was just a plain morbid. The screen then slowly zoomed into his face as the humming grew louder. After roughly 45 seconds of this strange display, the screen then fades to black again. The final scene began. Ren was sitting on his chair, only illuminated by the light of the television. The TV was turned to the mud skipster show. The camera then again panned to Ren's face, and he looked up sleep deprived, and he had a sullen look on his face. As the camera stayed glued to his face, another strange sound began to rise. This time it was a low, very unsettling rumbling noise. After 30 seconds, Ren finally blinked, and he spoke his first line of the episode. He said in a low tone, "This was his favorite show." The camera then panned right and revealed to be a large lump behind Ren's chair. The camera slowly zoomed into the large black lump. After a good minute, the color illuminated to the sharp, shapeless blob. Stimpy's body was lying on its side, surrounded by shards of broken glass, smashed record pieces. His fur was mangled and dirty. While his hand was laid over his ear, he was faced away from the camera, with something written on his back. The image was drawn in the realistic way that Creepypasta intended to animate certain scenes. Ren then began to weep uncontrollably in his chair. The TV shut off, only leaving the sound of Ren's sobs for several minutes, before the episode ends, fading to black. The episode was pulled from the air immediately, and the show was discontinued. Creepypasta had said that My Poor Stimpy was just an animation project, and not the episode that he intended to show. Ren and Stimpy adult parody cartoon soon aired on Spike TV.